want those emails out. Nobody has a bigger interest in getting them released than I do. I respect the State Department. They have their process that they do for everybody, not just for me. But anything that they might do to expedite that process, I heartily support. You know, I want the American people to learn as much as we can about the work that I did with our diplomats and our development experts.
Hillary Clinton's emails going public, Senator Rand Paul's 10.5-hour speech, and whittling down the number of Republican candidates for the televised debates. Let's get right to it. Republican strategist and professor at Georgetown University, Bradley Bakeman, and Democratic strategist and former Deputy Staff Secretary to President Bill Clinton, David Goodfriend, joining us. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Let's get right into it. Rand Paul, 10.5 hours. Long time to be standing and talking. Let's take over the network. Let's talk for 10.5 hours about this issue. First of all, let's start with you, Mr. Blakeman. Bradley, will Republicans stand with Rand, or is this the beginning of the end for the Paul campaign? What do you think?
No, I think this was an important stunt, quote unquote, for somebody who's running for president. He certainly got a lot of earned media, a lot of attention. There's going to be distancing, though, from his stance from other Republicans who happen to believe that the Patriot Act and the things that are in the Patriot Act are the things that have kept us safe. And you don't have to look any further than Barack Obama's support of it when he, in the campaign in 2007 and 8, criticized George Bush for the Patriot Act. There's been no broadening of this Patriot Act better than what Obama has done. But again, Rand Paul, I think, did the right thing for his campaign and a right thing for his position.
Well, David, it seems like polling suggests that the Republicans are getting a little more hawkish. So are major modifications to the Patriot Act not only a loser on Capitol Hill, but a loser inside the Republican Party?
Well, those are two very different questions. I do think that this goes above partisan politics in that you have figures on the left, like Congressman John Conyers from Michigan, figures on the right, like Senator Rand Paul, in agreement that there's government overreach here in the mass collection of data without a warrant, that's a complete undermining of the Fourth Amendment. And in fact, courts are now starting to agree with that premise, that in fact, the Section 215 bulk collection of data is in fact unconstitutional. So let's be careful not to characterize this as just a Republican or just a Democratic idea. That having been said, there's no doubt that there's a division within the Republican Party. You heard Brad just sort of describe it. You have hawks on the one hand who say we need a stronger defense, we need stronger national security apparatus, we need to support the NSA. And then you have the civil liberties crowd like Senator Rand Paul. And I think that's going to play out throughout this campaign, much the same way that gay rights and gay marriage are going to play out in the Republican Party throughout this campaign. It's the sort of individual rights, liberty, civil liberties crowd versus the more traditional, hawkish and traditionalist wings of the Republican Party.
Well, Bradley, how will it play out inside the GOP? Do you think this could be a winning issue for Rand Paul as he tries to invigorate the libertarian parts of the party?
Well, this is all about influencing the platform as well. You know, every 4 years, parties take a look at themselves and determine where they're going to be at that particular point in time. So what it shows for the Republicans, especially with the amount of candidates that are running, is that we're letting the party decide for themselves what the platform will be, who their selection will be, and that'll determine who the election will be. Unlike the Democrats, who are being told who to vote for, being told what their platform is, there's very little they have to do other than what they're told to do. So I happen to think this is healthy for the party, good conversation, and it'll coalesce in a platform, I think, that'll be winning in 2016.
All right, David, what's more compelling TV? Rand Paul talking for 10.5 hours or 18 possible candidates on CNN for a debate? What do you think?
Wow, well, I think Sominex doesn't need much help on this one. But I'll tell you, I think that Brad is right about one thing. There's a bigger field of Republican candidates, none of whom is commanding a majority, let alone a plurality lead in the polling right now. And I think that the debates that you're going to see on the Republican side are going to be complex. It might be a little bit messy. And the big question I think we have is, will that be more compelling to the American people to see that kind of lively debate? Or are they looking for a clearer sense of direction, a clearer sense of leadership, which clearly the Democratic Party at the moment has? Now, look, we're not immune from these kind of internal disputes either. You've got Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders on the left that are pushing Hillary Clinton to take a more progressive stand on a bunch of different issues. But let's be honest. I mean, Brad is right. There are just way more candidates on the Republican side than there are on the Democratic side right now.
And Bradley, getting to that, the procedure of how you can go about running debates on the Republican side, apparently Fox News is going to go with about 10 candidates on the stage, CNN, as we mentioned, 18. What's the best way to go here?
I think there's got to be a threshold. There's got to be a criteria and a test met whether or not you get on the stage. And a lot of it has to do with fundraising, I believe. That's a good threshold. Your presence in states, that's a good threshold. So I think in order that this is a meaningful debate, that there's got to be a criteria. When candidates meet it, they earn their spot on stage. And when they don't, they don't. But one thing is for sure is we're going to have some really qualified people. We're going to have a healthy debate on the Republican side. I think it's good for the party, and I think it's good for the country.
And David, let's leave it right now with Hillary Clinton. The New York Times has come out with some of these emails from her time as Secretary of State. Are we learning anything about Secretary Clinton as far as Benghazi?
Well, one thing that New York Times article said is that the emails that are coming out are corroborating and confirming the things that Hillary Clinton herself said. So I think this may turn into another failed attempt by the Republicans to try to discredit Hillary Clinton. And what I think is really going on here is they don't want to talk about her positions on various issues because they're winning positions. Let's talk about what she said on immigration. Let's talk about what she said on middle class wages. And let's talk about all the things that she's going to be mentioning in the months ahead. The Republicans don't want to talk about policy because I think they know she's got them on a lot of these issues, and they're too busy fighting with each other to come up with an answer.
All right, Bradley, I see you smiling over there. Wish you could have time for a response, but we'll get back at it in another session. Thanks a lot. Bradley Blakeman, David Goodfriend, we appreciate it so much. And once again, you're watching Newsmax TV. Rick Blackwell filling in for Ed Berliner.